From the studios of TLC Talk Radio, it's your girl Tasha with Tashatalkz. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and catch us multiple times a day on TLCTalkRadio.com, 24/7 edutainment. We hope that you are remaining safe in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic. And to that end, you see me in studio by myself, but I am not by myself. I am joined on our phone line by Yolanda Simmons Battle, pastor of Congregational Care at Purpose Church. And she is also a second-year graduate student in the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program. Tasha, what is it that we're about to talk about? Well, I'm glad you asked. We are going to discuss the 5 love languages. And my curiosity about this came about because obviously I love relationships of all kinds, friendships, familial relationships. And I'm always curious about how to make those things better. And so years and years ago, I took a love language test, and I kind of knew what my love language was even without having taken, a formal test. But it's been something that as I get older, I am more and more curious about. And I wonder how many people are aware of what their love language is. Yolanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. I wish you were live in studio, but it is what it is. We want to remain safe.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the 5 love languages, my first introduction was via a book written by Dr. Gary Chapman, and there are 5, and most people who know me know what my primary one is, because I'm going to always harass you for a hug. This pandemic has been hard for me because I'm not in close proximity,
absolutely,
to the people I love, and I'm very, very affectionate. My mother will tell you that I get on her nerves, but she's lying. She loves secretly that I need all my hugs and kisses, but that's just who I am. But Yolanda, tell the listening audience what the 5 love languages are.
Well, the 5 love languages, I want to start out first that it was created by Dr. Gary Chapman, who is a renowned marriage counselor. And he had been doing marriage counseling for over 20 years. And he came up with this idea because in a lot of his counseling sessions, one partner or the other would always exclaim, depending if it was a tensions meeting, and they would say, "Oh, he don't love me," or "she doesn't love me," and so after having similar remarks from his couples, he began to ask himself this question, and something that we're trained to do in the counseling profession, to look deeper than what someone has said, look under the surface. And after reviewing a lot of his session notes, he began to ask the question, what are the couples really saying when they're saying their partner doesn't love them? And so this is how the 5 love languages was basically birthed from his years of therapy sessions and of his knowledge. So the 5 love languages that he came up with was quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and receiving gifts.
Okay.
And he came with these 5 different qualities, just seeing a similar trend in a lot of the couples that he counseled over the years, and seeing that what couples were sharing, this is what they craved, and this is how they responded. And so he coined the term the love language.
Yeah, makes sense. So mine, if you haven't made an inference, listeners, is physical touch. It's important to me that we hug if you're my partner, we kiss, that I'm held, that's who I am. But even if you're not my, romantic partner, if you're my friend, like I'm greeting you, with a hug, it's important that we, end with, I love you when we get off the phone, those kinds of things. How can we show explain each one. How can we show love in each of those 5 areas?
Absolutely. So you've given some great examples of physical touch. And one of the things we want to also add is that physical touch is not just in a sexual instance. It is that in that familiar way with your friend, a pat on the arm. If someone's talking to you and they want their hand on, they put their hand on your leg, or holding hands while out in public, or someone who, my girlfriend, when she laughs, she hits.
Yeah.
But we make fun of that, but we know that's her expression. That's how she connects with us, and it's when she's showing exuberant laughter. She really hits you hard. So
we call those the touchy-feely type. I'm that
the touchy-feely type, and so that's the physical touch. In quality time, that is uninterrupted time. The person whose love language is quality time, they need their partners or whom they're in community with to be totally engaged with them. It's not just saying that they want to go to all the exotic places, or you need to spend a lot of money on them, and they're always in the theater and they want you to go to the show with them or to the concert, which these things play a part.
Sure.
But they are just as happy and content if it's Netflix and chill.
Okay.
You're sitting on the couch and we're in the same space together.
Yeah.
So that's what quality time is for those whose love language is in that area. And for those whose love language is acts of service, someone who thrives off their partner doing something for them.
Sure.
And usually it's not just because that person may feel lazy. It could be if their partner completed a task for them that they may have forgotten to do, or they were too tired to do, or maybe they're in a stressful situation and their partner surprised them, or it was done randomly. That speaks volumes to someone whose love language is acts of service.
It says that I was on your mind.
Yes, it definitely says, I had you on my mind, so I thought of doing this for you. Filling up your partner's car with gas is an act of service if that's their language. You may be surprised how excited a person will get for something that you may deem as small, but that's because that's their love language. That's how that's what speaks to them.
Sure.
The person whose love language is words of affirmation, it's just that. When you speak well to your partner, you are saying, you say, I'm proud of you, or you look great in that outfit, or thank you for, that was a great meal that you tried out last night. It was great. It tastes really good. What made you come up with that? Or even especially if they may have tried a task and they may have felt like they failed, and the partner say, you're still a winner, you did great.
Yeah.
That lifts them up. And it's not to say that a person can't go on without you saying, speaking these words to them, but it's the way that you'll get a better response from that person. If their language is words of affirmation, when you speak those affirming positive things to them, they'll respond back to you in such a magnificent way because you have filled them up in a way that attaches to them. And that actually speaks to all of the love languages that's part of the Dr. Chapman's list. And of course, receiving gifts. People might say, well, who doesn't like to receive gifts? Well, actually, you'd be surprised. There are some people who they appreciate gifts, but it's not something that fuels them.
Yeah.
And it'll be, and the person whose love language is receiving gifts is also, if they receive a gift that they know you thought, you really had them in mind.
Sure.
You knew they needed it. And it could be it doesn't have to be a name brand item or a purse or a shoe. It could be something like a pair of scissors. And if that person is a seamstress, and your partner recognizes or maybe heard you 2 weeks ago mention like, oh, my scissors, I'm gonna have to get some new ones because these are starting to become dull. And then your partner shows up and just leaves a new pair of scissors on the bed or on the dresser.
Right.
That person who love language is receiving gifts are going to be ecstatic because, again, it says you had me on your mind.
Sure.
And you listened to me.
Yeah.
You heard me.
Yeah.
And so those are just some small examples, but I think it's important for people to see it's not always the big and flashy.
Sure.
A lot of times it's the small intent, sometimes that we may overlook.
Purposeful.
Purposeful. Absolutely.
Purposeful and deliberate. I have a friend whose ex said to her, excuse me, you didn't know how to love me. And I wonder, I'll keep my comment about him as a person to myself, but I wonder if it was just a situation where they did not understand one another's love language.
Oh, yes. I believe in majority of the cases when that comment comes up or it's expressed, especially after or when the season has ended for that relationship, and a person may say, they didn't know how to love me. They didn't understand.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, it goes both ways.
Agreed.
We're not mind readers.
I was about to say, yeah.
We have to be able to share with our partners, with the people we're in community with. This is what speaks to me. And it may seem odd or awkward or may feel uncomfortable, but it helps the relationship so much when you get down to being able to communicate. I know that's a whole nother conversation.
It's a different show.
But you have a whole different show. But you have to know how to communicate. Sure. And so we have to be able to share and tell your partner, this is what speaks to me.
That's important. I am in a new relationship. The audience is aware of it. And one of the first things we did as a couple was take the love language test. Now, I knew what mine was. I also know that it's shifted a little bit, but we'll come back to that. But that was, for him, that was not even something he had been aware of. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, hand me your phone. And so we did it together. And so for him, his primary one is quality time. And because of the nature of the work that we both do, we don't see each other often. That makes a lot of sense. Because when you do get to see each other, it's like, okay, this is me and you. Right. You know, this is not, you know, answering the phone or, you know, whatever the distractions look like. And so that's really important. You mentioned the things that we can do to show love for each of those 5. What are some things to avoid for each of those 5? So, for example, mine is physical touch. So what you want to avoid with me is abuse, physical abuse, because touch is really important to me. And so the touch needs to be loving and caring. Like, you can't just play and punch me in the arm. First of all, my Inglewood that I try to keep in the trunk will show up. try to keep Asha at bay, but she's a mess. But in all seriousness, that would be something that would be detrimental to someone, because you're looking for the positive physical touch, and you've turned it into Bizarro World. You've literally done a 180, and now they don't know how to receive touch from you. That makes sense?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, there's, of course, again, this is another show, a topic for another show, but when you can take the way the person, how they receive love and how they give love as well, that's equally as important. And something happened to them to destroy, to hamper, and to totally shift how they receive love, it doesn't change that physical touch is their way of receiving love. But now they've been in an abusive relationship, and you wonder, people say, well, why she just couldn't leave, or why he couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Because touch is still the way he or she interprets receiving love or giving love, even though it's not healthy and that's not really love, but they can't change it because it's still ingrained in them. And so a great example, physical touch, and you can't be abusive. You can't fight with someone like that whose love language is physical touch. You can't speak down or call someone ugly or say they're dumb or they're worthless to a person whose language is words of affirmation, because then they start to internalize those things that you're saying and they're doing, and it starts to mess up the psyche of, this is how I receive. Love's supposed to feel good. Love is never, ever, ever, ever supposed to hurt or make me feel bad. But if this is how it's been flipped, now you're distorting the way I receive love. And that will make some people walk away and not even explain, right? What happened. Because this is the way I speak. I don't understand the way you're speaking. My primary language is English. I can understand a little Spanish, but not enough to save my life, right? And so I'm going to need you're trying to speak to me in Spanish or German, I can't. I'm going to have to get someone to help me, or I'm going to walk away because we're not speaking the same way.
It's a fruitless conversation. In fact, it's one-sided because I don't understand.
It's totally one-sided. Someone who, if the love language is acts of service, and their partner never does anything for them, it goes back to the core of, you didn't have me on your mind.
Or even if you attach the act of service to, you need to do this for me.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't wipe your car off because I was in a hurry, even though you've been home all day.
You've been home all day.
Right.
And my car is packed with snow. Or you no, I'm not going to wash the dishes because that's a woman's job. And I'm using air quotes. No, I'm not going to give you some money to buy you some boots for the winter because you have your own job. No, I'm not going to go pick up the kids from school, although I drive past the school.
Right.
And I can pick them up. And you have to go out your way to go pick them up. No, I'm not. So it's that type of thing. And definitely, quality time. Not wanting to spend time with them. Or here's the cherry on top. And this is mine. I'm being transparent. Quality time is my primary love language. If we're spending time with each other and you're on your phone, you're totally distracted. That gets under my skin, because it says to me, you don't really care about me. I'm not important enough
for you to
be with me
for this hour or whatever.
Because for 10 minutes, and so when or those who love language is quality time, and their partner make them feel like it's a chore for them to spend time with them.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it.
If I call you, and you say, "Well, what you want?" Well, I just want to chat because I haven't talked to you all day. You know, now it's a chore, and people have to understand that when someone has expressed what their love language is, and maybe they don't do it in this formal way where they define what their specific love language is, but if they make a set of requests and you say you're nagging or you're tripping, that's the operative word. What you do is you begin to teach them. You talked about walking away, having a one-sided conversation. You begin to teach them how to live without you. I too am being transparent, and so I can no longer depend on you. So, for example, there was a study done with infants who were ignored when they were crying. And they eventually learned, I might as well stop crying. Ain't nobody coming. I literally cannot depend on you for X, even though I've asked and I've tried. And that doesn't make the other person horrible per se, but it does mean that you're not matched well. And here's a segue into another question. Could that be a lazy love? Is there a such thing as a lazy love? What would you say to someone who said, this ish ain't real. There's no love language. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. So, for example, you can use myself in this particular scenario. You can buy me all the things in the world, but if we ain't spending no time together, thanks for my Beamer though, but if we ain't spending no time together, I'm just saying, what was the point?
Yes. Yes.
Is there such thing as a lazy love? Maybe not purposefully, but still, it is what it is.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Read and studied this particular topic, lazy love, and in my opinion, there's no evidence-based research to support this right now. But in my opinion, what I mean, just watching people, being a people observer, I believe there can be lazy love. I think that, and at the very foundation, when people do not put in work to respond and be able to react to their partner in a way that's fitting for them, that's lazy. You doing half the work. That's to me similar to knowing you have an exam on Friday. The teacher have given you on Monday all of the questions that's going to be on the exam on Friday. So instead of you being able to go and read the chapter, reread the notes, answer the questions that the teacher gave on Monday, you're going to say, well, we went over this already. I don't need to review. That's lazy.
And then when you fail the test, you mad at the teacher. Wait a minute.
You mad.
I gave you the information.
The teacher have given 5 tools and resources to prep you. And so, in the same manner, if your partner is saying, hey, I just want us to, let's watch this movie together. Or, hey, I saw this exhibit that's going to open up and let's just go try it out. It's free, so we don't have to pay anything. Or, hey, hey, you look really nice in that haircut. So sometimes when the partner pushes out information that seems like it's out of their character, it's because they want it reciprocated. So they want you to do it back for them, because they're letting you know, I'm craving this.
It's modeling.
You know, it's modeling. And so, and a lot of people don't understand that, and I do it all the time. I do it all the time. And it's not trickery, but it's to let you know, this is what I'm craving. Babies are hungry. What they do, they cry. So we're not going to cry. We're going to be expressive.
Yeah. If we cry and you're expressive, you've already done this way too much.
You've already hurt, and we're probably at the point where we're going to have to really do some heavy-duty discussion. I don't want to say we're at the point of no return, but we have really pushed far if I'm at the point where I'm crying. But yeah, people can be lazy, and we need to help each other do the work.
Right.
And you know what? Being lazy also means that you're being selfish. When you don't want to do the extra work, you're being selfish.
Yeah, I always think about the start of a relationship. For the most part, people put in an effort. I know that courtship has shifted over the years, but for the most part, people put in the effort at the top of a relationship. Sidebar: if the top of the relationship has no effort, that's an indicator.
Yes,
this ain't gonna work out the way you think, ladies and gentlemen.
Not at all.
Typically, generally speaking, you put your best foot forward. And so then when you get me, or ladies, when you get him, and then you're like, so if you started with, I always say, don't start what you can't finish. So I'm over here, Yolanda, cooking filet mignon and, breakfast every Saturday. This is what I'm doing. But I'm cool with reciprocating. You know what I mean? Okay, excuse me. Continuing. You know what I mean? And he's cool with reciprocating. Like, yay, he can cook too. That's good. Because sometimes I'm tired. But the point is, I'm not doing anything in the spirit of witchcraft. It's not manipulation. It's not me doing this because at the end I'm gonna shift and now it's true. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And although people may think that they can do that, and people say, well, I've done it for years and I've always gotten what I've wanted. Really, you don't. And in the end, you will be left by yourself, or the relationship will fizzle out, or it will not play out in the manner that you wanted to, because you wasn't true and honest with yourself.
Yeah, you came with
first
some BS. Let me ask you this. How do the love languages translate to friendship? Now, you were with us in episode 9, the friendship episode, and we talked about the way the 6 of us communicated. And the example you gave was hilarious. Marcy mentioned that she did not like to text. She wanted you to pick up the phone and call her. Then your comment was, and we know that we can text Tasha all day long.
Exactly.
That is my primary mode of communication. I'm cool with, depending on who you are. I can sit on the phone with my mother. I can sit on the phone with Aisha. I can sit on the phone with my honey. But for the most part, I don't want to be on the phone with you. You can come over though. How does understanding a love language translate to friendships?
Oh, it does. And that's why I said that the love language is not just for your partner, it's also for those you're in community with. I used this example before years ago, and with a coworker, and some of my other colleagues laughed at me when I said this to them. There was a young woman that I started to work on a project with, and she was somewhat difficult, and a couple of other people in the organization thought she was a difficult person to work with. But after having a heart-to-heart with her offline, I realized what her love language was. And after that, our working relationship was wonderful. It was seamless, and it was no trouble. And I shared this with some other colleagues who also had to work with her on another project. And they were like, well, how did you do it? I was like, I understood what her love language was. And they were like, well, what do you mean? I asked her.
Right.
And I listened to her. And so by understanding that,
where she's coming from,
it made my life better. See, so I think it's definitely translates to friendships, your close friendships, your family, and people you are in close community with. Because ultimately, and now, although I said being lazy makes you selfish, now I'm going to say understanding someone's love language to who you're in community with, it is selfish for you, because it makes the way you work with them, the way you commune with them, the way you spend time with them, it's going to make your life better. Because the way they respond back to you. And let me just give this example for those who may not understand what I'm going to use this. Some men say, happy wife, happy life. If the husband knows that his wife's love language is acts of service, and he washed those dishes, and she come home and she's so excited, so now all she got to do is cook. The dishes are already clean. She don't have to clean the kitchen before starting to cook. Then that makes his life better. Because she's going to respond positive. And so if I know you as my friend, and I know that I can text you 24 hours a day. I can text you early in the morning because I know that you're up early in the morning.
I am.
So I know if something hits me, or if I got a scripture or a question, I can text you at 5:30 because you're up, and I know I can get a response early in the morning. And so I understand your language, and it helps me. Because if I want a response right away, I know I can text you early in the morning. And so it helps the giver have a better life when you understand what your friend's language is like.
Absolutely. Your friend, your partner, your coworker, definitely these skills, this knowledge base is transferable throughout all relationship.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I discovered, Yolanda, that while my primary love language is physical touch, as I've gotten older, as I've taken on more responsibility as a grown woman, acts of service are really important to me as well. Can people have two?
Yeah.
Ooh,
so
whatever you're doing is picking up on the mic, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. According to Dr. Chapman's testing and the way they set up the questions, that you can have two that score really high or close in number, but there's always going to be one that have maybe a little bit stronger edge. Going to just play out just a little bit over another love language. So, but I mean, you can have one that may have one is they're right under each other as well. So it may have that vision of them overlapping, and it just says that, these top 3 or these top 2 are very important equally. And so it's not to say that you should do one and not the other, but if you do one or the other, you're going to get that positive response from your partner.
Yes. So if you hug me and then go clean the snow off my car, man,
you get double the portion. Absolutely. Double the response.
Any parting words about the 5 love languages for the listening audience?
I think the 5 love languages is a wonderful tool. If you haven't taken the test, it's really simple. It doesn't take a long time. It takes maybe 15 minutes to go through. Yeah. And it's not just for couples either. They have one for singles. They have one, a book just for men. Mm-hmm. You can do one now for the military, because we have so many of our servicemen and servicewomen in the military, and there's one for teens.
Nice.
And because I know parents, sometimes you look at your teenagers and like, where did they come from, and who are these people, and what happened? And so even, I would suggest have your teenager take it as well. It may help your relationship and how you deal with them and how you respond to them. I think it's a wonderful tool that Dr. Chapman came up with. Wonderful books. Take a chance to read the book and work daily, because you get to learn more about yourself and learn more about your partner and learn more about the people that you are in community with. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask what speaks to them and how you can treat them and give to them in a more loving way.
Definitely. I appreciate your sharing your analysis of the 5 love languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. Yolanda Simmons Battle, the pastor of Congregational Care at Purpose Church and second-year grad student in clinical mental health counseling program at Roosevelt University. Thank you for joining us, Yolanda. Don't forget to follow Tashatalkz on all of our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. I'm your girl, Tasha, and we will catch you next week.